Alrighty, give this a go. So today we're going to talk about building an amazing team. I think this is such a critical part to all businesses. So with this, just to start off right at the bat, quick, first off the top of your head, what does it mean to you? What pops in your head when you hear an amazing team? Go. Anyone out there?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. What else? Communication. Energy. Diversity. Productivity. Initiative. What? Targeted outcome. Transparency. Good. So those are also what came to mind for me, many of those things when we're talking about an amazing team. There's a great difference between just having a team and having an amazing team. So today we're going to focus on the different components of an amazing team, some pitfalls, and I'll share a little bit about my story as to why I began focusing on having an amazing team. So who needs it? Everyone, right? So I wanted to make this a good point for today that an amazing team does not necessarily mean that you have to have staff and employees. It could mean who are you partnering with, who's supporting you, who's there for you to bounce questions off of peer groups. So an amazing team does not necessarily mean staff and employees. I'm going to focus a little bit more on that side just from my own experience, but an amazing team applies to everyone because it's anyone you surround yourself with that helps propel you and your business forward. So why? Why would we want to do this? We heard lots of good reasons as to what an amazing team means, but why would we want to build a positive, self-motivated team? What are some end results we get from that? Reduce turnover, success. Anything else? What's that? Empowering individuals, that's right. Yes. A lot of the first reasons of what we had stated as to what does that mean to us, we stated a lot of the results that we get by having an amazing team, right? They're very self-motivated, they're very positive, it's a good culture to be a part of. So there's a lot of reasons why this is such an important thing because the outcome is so great, so incredibly great. I cannot even express just the force that comes behind having an amazing team. And I think one that stood out to me the most with my experience with this is the collaboration part of it. Just really the empowering your employees and the collaboration that they can have. And again, that can be with your partners, outsourced partners that you work with, or employees. Either way, that can make a huge difference. So I really feel the why we're doing it is what drives a successful company. So a little bit about my story. So about 6 years ago, I had to start getting really serious about hiring staff and getting help to support my business to make sure that we could do all of the things we were being asked to do from our clients. Business was growing, and I realized that I cannot do everything and be the everything to everyone. So a lot of us run into that situation, whether it's outsourcing or hiring. And so I knew I needed a solution for this, and I needed to hire a bookkeeper. So my first go at it, I'm looking at the situation. I need someone who's very self-motivated, someone who has a great skill set and can kind of just jump in and take the reins and do the bookkeeping. Doesn't need a ton of training, more so just learning about how I want our customers treated and how our processes are going to run. So I hired that person, and they were fabulous, absolutely fabulous, because it allowed me to hand off some of the bookkeeping there. They could, do the communication with the clients. I will say, side note, it scared me to death to do that because up until that point, it was just me. I had support staff helping scan and file documents, but as far as the communication and the real bookkeeping work, it was me. So to let go that first step and have someone else stepping up and talking to my clients, the first day she was there, she answered the phone. I went, we didn't talk about answering the phone. What's she going to say? Well, obviously, I hired a responsible adult that could answer the phone. But it was scary. It was scary. And I think a lot of us experience that at some point when our business is growing, and whether it's an outsourced partner or an employee, that we have to let go a little bit and share, because that's our reputation on the line. That's what we've built for so many years, and now we're allowing someone else to share and help with that. So it was a scary step, but I made it. I hired primarily for the skill set and the self-motivation, because that was really key. I needed someone to take that role. But as my business continued to grow, I needed to hire more staff, and I needed to build my team, and it changed completely the direction of how things were working within my company. Having one person who can just kind of do what they want, and to a certain degree, but they're running it all. Their decisions, they're handling all the clients, et cetera, versus now they have to share. They have to help train. They have to share ideas. They have to collaborate. It's not for everyone. And so I learned a hard lesson as I moved along, and continued to try to grow my team. I struggled. I had a lot of turnover with new employees I tried to hire. It almost seemed like a revolving door. It took probably 1.5 to 2 years for me to realize, what's the cause of this? Why can we not find a good employee that can fit in and make a team? And what I was finding is there was a single source of that. There was a challenge that I had to overcome. And it's that person that I put in that first role that was great as an independent was not great as a team player. So through a lot of support, and a lot of hard nights of thinking this through, I made a hard decision and said, this person is no longer growing with my team. They're hindering my team. I'm not able to grow. I'm not able to add anyone else onto the team because they put the kibosh on it every time. They make something not work, so that person leaves or gets terminated for some reason. So in the end, I found that single source that was a great fit at the beginning was no longer a fit as my business grew. So I want to point that out, that things don't always have to, they can't always stay the same. And some employees can grow and they can have that collaboration, they can share their knowledge, and it can be a great thing. But others are a fit in certain situations, but not as a company develops and grows. So I really struggled with that, of figuring out, how do I make an amazing team? Because no matter what I'm trying here, I feel like I'm at a stopping point. Has anybody ever experienced something like that, where no matter how hard they're trying, they're just kind of getting stopped in their tracks and they're not sure why? So I started really studying up, and I heard some great speakers from this group and some from others, and with my mastermind group that I'm a part of, really started sharing, okay, here's what I'm struggling with and I don't understand it. And what I found was kind of the things that we were talking about to build the amazing team. When I identified what those were, the collaboration, the empowerment, all those different things that we mentioned, I was lacking in several of them. Not all, but several. And that is what was hindering my ability to grow as a company. And when I looked back at it and started evaluating the staff and what they possessed and how they were contributing to that team collaboration and the empowerment and the values and so on and so forth, I found that there was one in particular that really was preventing it all. And it wasn't all on their shoulders, but it was a big chunk of it, because without that, I made a hard decision. And from that point forward, in the next 3 months, it was the hardest time as far as capacity goes, because I was down a whole full-time person. And my team, the business was continuing to grow. But in that first 3 months, we were more productive than we had ever been. More so that we didn't just keep up with the work, but we moved forward with how we're using systems and technology. We spent time developing things and task management. All these things that we couldn't accomplish before with 3 full-time people. Now we accomplished all the client work with great customer satisfaction and continued development. So to me, it was just such a testament that when you have the right people in the right role and you have an amazing team versus just you have a team, it can really skyrocket 100% of everything. So that's a little bit of my story and what kind of was the basis of this presentation today, because I wanted to share with you all, if you have a team, but it's not amazing, really take a hard look at what amazing means to you and look at those components and see where in that It might not be with a staff at all. Maybe it's you haven't communicated out or empowered those employees or partners to do more with it. So, pitfalls. Let's talk about that because this is where we get stuck, right? We can talk all day about what an amazing team looks like, but what do we run into that we have to overcome? I would like you guys to each take about a minute to 2 minutes with your table and talk about some pitfalls you think that we could run into with this. When we're evaluating our team, whether it's outsourced partners or employees, we're wanting that amazing team that we talked about at the beginning. What are some things that could hinder that? And then we'll have a discussion about those. Okay? So take just a couple of minutes. Come up with maybe two to three things that you feel are great pitfalls that we might need to address.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
All right, let's bring it back up here. I know this type of conversation could go on for a long time because I think there's a lot of pitfalls out there that you can fall into. But let's share just a few of those. Let's go around to each table and just share with us, just one thing that you discussed in your group that you felt was probably like a really big pitfall that you could fall into. Bill, do we have a mic to? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
So really, this is. Are we on? Ted? Oh yeah, thank you. So really, Mary was the spokesperson that talked about this, but getting beyond the emotional part of hiring people and using the science behind hiring people was probably the thing we talked most about. So we weren't, gut's important, but if you're not backing that up with the science, then you're probably going to make some. Was there anything else? Okay.
Well said.
Okay.
Very good.
Like Mary said that.
All right, Lisa.
I think a pitfall is when you as a owner or manager commit the tragic act of not being observant in a time of crisis. I had one earlier this week, actually started late last week. It's very easy to put the blinders on and focus on that and not pay attention to what's going on around you. And when I had to concentrate most of my efforts on this problem on Monday, my assistant manager stepped up, took a team member that we hired 3 weeks ago under his wing, and helped her and coached her throughout the course of the day in operations. And I think what's most important in that regard is not just observing in the background that that's happening and your business is moving forward while you deal with the issue. The next day I singled him out at the beginning of his shift in our store, and I said, I want you to know I watched what you did, I saw what you did yesterday, and I'm so grateful that you took the initiative to help out and keep the store going while I dealt with this problem. It means a lot when you recognize, and you don't need incentives, you don't always need bonuses, but when you make that gesture that you paid attention, you let that staff member know, it goes a long way.
Recognition is key. And, just for any of you guys that have kids, you may have heard, don't just say, oh, that's nice if they show you a pretty picture. Go the next step further. Get the details. Oh, tell me about it. That looks wonderful. Tell me about your picture. Same type thing with recognition. Be specific with it. Dig deeper than just, hey, good job. Okay? What does that mean? Be specific. I saw what you did yesterday. Thank you so much for doing X, Y, and Z. That really meant a lot. That helped me do this. Very specific and very important that recognition is often and specific. Thank you so much, Bill, for sharing that. All right, next table.
So one I like is pseudo-empowerment, which is I'm going to give people the power to make decisions, and then the first time they do that, you second-guess them. That comes from fear, of course, of letting go. But one of the things that I found is that we need to maintain constructive accountability in an organization. Mm-hmm. And rather than having the boss be the person who's making the decision about how things are going to go, let the team hold one another accountable for those decisions. That way you don't get into this trap of the pseudo-empowerment where the queen bee swoops in and takes care of everything.
Yes.
So we talked just a bit about the importance of hiring for culture fit as opposed to skill, because a lot of times you can teach the skill, but it's difficult to retrain someone's personality. So thinking about that before you make that decision to hire can also be important.
Absolutely. That was probably one of the biggest shifts I made, was really looking at that culture fit, the values, before looking at the skill. If that wasn't a fit, that was it. There was no hope. But if we had that, then we could take the next step into skills. Thank you. Kara.
We talked about delegating and making sure that we allow somebody to do the work instead of trying to control it.
Fabulous.
We talked about setting expectations and how important that is to be upfront about and then following through with that. And, the letting go part too.
Perfect. Perfect. Dale?
Okay, I just got nominated. Somewhat parallel to what Les was saying, we talked about the need to create a structure of trust that people live up to or down to our expectations. So when we indicate to them that we trust them to do the best, to do the right thing, we trust their judgment, more often than not, in fact, the vast majority of the time, they're going to surprise us pleasantly with what they produce.
I would agree. Ian?
Oh, now look at all my table partners here just.
They disappeared.
We talked about several of the things that have already been mentioned, but one of the things that hasn't is loyalty. It was fascinating to hear you tell your story about how you had an employee who had worked for you for a while, and you had to make it really challenging and difficult decision. And sometimes loyalty, for various reasons, can really make it difficult to make that transition.
Absolutely. But we're out of time, so I apologize we didn't get to the back table, but all of those were major things that I had to change, a lot of those, in order to go from a team to an amazing team. Just about everything you guys stated. Main thing I want to point out, don't fly alone. Get a mastermind group, get a peer group, get just a buddy that you trust to talk this through with and get support with, building that team, get some insight. My main lessons learned, be open to change, engage the team, make the hard decisions when you need to, and give specific recognition often. Empowering my team was the best thing I ever did, and now they run the bookkeeping side seamlessly. I'm very involved with it, but they make those decisions. They collaborate together. They workload balance between themselves, and it has never run smoother and better with them being empowered to do it rather than me being the roadblock in it. So hopefully this helped you just kind of differentiate and give you some ideas on how you can build your own amazing team. Thank you very much.